The air inside Station Apex 7 smelled like oil and alien sweat. Thousands of creatures from hundreds of worlds walked through the metal corridors, buying, selling, and making deals that would never see the light of law. This was the edge of civilized space, where criminals ruled and honest beings stayed away. In the deepest part of the station, behind 3 locked doors and a small army of guards, Captain Thalric sat on his floating throne. He had 4 arms, purple skin that looked like polished stone, and eyes that could see in 6 different light spectrums. He was a Quellan, and he controlled most of the illegal trade in this sector. Right now he had a problem. Someone had stolen from him a data core containing coordinates to a hidden weapons cache worth billions. The thief had sold it to the Krell Syndicate, his biggest rival. Thalrix wanted it back, and he wanted the Krell to suffer for taking what was his. He looked at the holographic display floating in front of him. Profiles of mercenaries scrolled past, killers for hire, soldiers who fought for credits instead of causes. He had sent messages to 20 of them. 12 had responded. Today they would come to his chambers and he would choose who would retrieve his property. The first to arrive was a team of Braxis warriors. They were huge creatures, each one standing 3 meters tall with thick armor-like skin and muscles that could bend steel. Their leader was named Gorval, a veteran of the border wars who had killed more beings than most planets had population. He walked into the chamber with 4 of his squad behind him, their heavy boots making the floor shake. "I hear you have work," Gorval said, his voice like grinding rocks. "We are the best. We will crush your enemies and bring back what is yours." Thalrix nodded slowly. "The price is 10 million credits. First team to return with the data core gets paid. Are you interested?" "We accept," Gorval said immediately. "Who else competes?" "You will see," Thalrix replied. Over the next hour, more mercenaries arrived. A Velthian collective, thousands of small insect-like creatures that shared one mind. A Nexian cyborg named Kiv-7, more machine than organic with weapons built into his metal body. A pair of Dravian assassins who moved like shadows. Each one was deadly. Each one was expensive. Each one was confident they would win. Then he walked in. The human was alone. No team, no backup, no heavy weapons. He stood maybe 1.8 meters tall with dark hair tied back from his face. His skin was tan, his build lean but not heavily muscled like the other mercenaries. He wore simple combat gear, a pistol on his hip and a knife strapped to his chest. That was all. The guards at the door started laughing the moment they saw him. One of them, a massive Quellan enforcer, actually pointed at the human and made a joke in his native language. The translation came through everyone's earpieces. Did someone's pet escape? The human did not react. He just walked forward with steady steps, his eyes fixed on Thalrix. Gorval stepped in front of him, blocking his path. The Braxis warrior was almost twice the human's height. "Little soft-worlder," Gorval rumbled. "You are in the wrong place. This is work for real soldiers, not fragile things like you." The human looked up at him. His expression did not change. "Excuse me," he said quietly and tried to step around. Gorval moved to block him again. "I could break you with one hand, human. Your bones are like glass. Your skin tears like paper. Go home before you get hurt." "I am here for the contract," the human said, still calm. "Please move." For a moment, it looked like Gorval would start a fight right there. But Thalrix spoke up. "Let him pass. I want to hear what he has to say." Gorval sneered but stepped aside. The human walked past him without a glance and stopped in front of Thalrix's throne. "Name?" Thalrix asked. "Hyunwoo," the human replied. Thalrix pulled up his file on the holographic display. What he saw made 2 of his eyes widen slightly. 37 completed contracts. 0 failures. Solo operator. High efficiency ratings. And something else, something in the casualty reports that did not make sense. Jobs that should have required teams of 10 or 20 soldiers completed by this one human alone. "You work alone?" Thalrix asked. "Yes, why?" "I do not trust others to do the job correctly," Hyunwoo said. Behind him, several mercenaries laughed. Gorval's voice boomed across the chamber. "You hear that? The little human thinks he is better than all of us." Hyunwoo did not turn around. He kept his eyes on Thalrix. "I am here for the contract." "What are the details?" Thalrix studied him carefully. Humans were new to the galactic stage, barely 2 centuries since first contact. They came from a world called Earth, which was considered unremarkable by galactic standards. They were weaker than most species, slower than many with no natural weapons or armor. They should not be dangerous, but this one had a perfect record. That meant something. The Krell Syndicate has stolen something from me, Thalrix explained. A data core containing valuable coordinates. It is being held in a fortified compound on the moon Zar-12. The compound has over 200 Krell soldiers, automated defenses, and heavy weapons. I want the data core returned. I do not care about casualties. Payment? Hyunwoo asked. 10 million credits. First team to bring back the core wins. The others get nothing. I accept, Hyunwoo said immediately. Thalrix leaned back in his throne. You understand you will be competing against all of them? He gestured to the other mercenaries in the room. Some of them may try to eliminate the competition. They may try to kill you. Hyunwoo's expression did not change. I understand. You are not afraid? Fear is not useful, Hyunwoo replied. It wastes energy. Gorval walked up behind the human, his shadow falling over him. I will enjoy watching you die, Softworlder. Maybe I will kill you myself, just to remove the competition. Hyunwoo turned his head slightly, just enough to look at the Braxis warrior. For the first time, Thalrix saw something in the human's eyes. Not fear, not anger, just calculation, like a machine analyzing data. You are welcome to try, Hyunwoo said quietly. Then he turned back to Thalrix. When do we leave? Immediately, Thalrix said. Transport ships are waiting in Dock 7. The coordinates are being uploaded to your systems now. Whoever brings me that data core first wins. The mercenaries began filing out of the chamber, already planning their approaches. Gorval and his team left first, laughing and making threats. The Velthian collective flowed out like living liquid. Kiv 7 walked out in silence, his mechanical eyes glowing red. Hyunwoo was the last to leave. As he reached the door, Thalrix called out to him. Human, why do you do this work? Hyunwoo paused. I need the money. For what? That is my business, Hyunwoo said and walked out. Thalrix watched him go on the security monitors. The human walked through the corridors of the station, ignoring the stares and the insults. Other beings moved out of his way or stepped closer to intimidate him. He reacted to none of it. His heart rate, according to the station's biometric scanners, was perfectly steady. His stress hormones were normal. He was as calm as if he were taking a walk in a park. One of Thalrix's advisors, a small reptilian creature, spoke up. Master, why did you accept the human? He will die in the first hour. He is wasting our time. Thalrix did not answer immediately. He was still watching the monitors, watching the human walk to the docks. Something about him was wrong. Not wrong in a bad way. Wrong in a way that made Thalrix's survival instincts whisper warnings. Perhaps, Thalrix finally said. Or perhaps we will learn something interesting about humans today. In Dock 7, Hyunwoo climbed into his small ship. It was old, patched in a dozen places, but the engines were good and the weapons worked. He strapped himself into the pilot's seat and entered the coordinates for Zar-12. As the ship launched and joined the stream of mercenary vessels heading toward the moon, Hyunwoo allowed himself a small sigh. He closed his eyes for a moment, thinking about why he needed 10 million credits, medical bills for his sister Ji-won back on Earth, experimental treatment that might save her life. He would get that data core. Not because he wanted to, not because he enjoyed killing, but because someone he loved needed him to, and if that meant walking through hell and fighting an army, then that was what he would do. The human opened his eyes and began checking his weapons. The journey to Zar-12 would take 6 hours. He used that time to review the compound's schematics, study Krell military tactics, and plan 17 different approaches to the target. Behind him, separated by thousands of kilometers of space, the other mercenary ships followed. Inside those ships, warriors sharpened weapons, loaded ammunition, and laughed about how easily they would crush the competition. Not one of them understood what they were about to see. Not one of them knew what humans truly were. And by the time they learned, it would be far too late. The moon Zar-12 was a dead rock. Its surface was covered in red dust and deep canyons carved by ancient rivers that had dried up millions of years ago. There was no atmosphere, no life, nothing but stone and silence. The perfect place to hide something valuable. The Krell compound sat in the deepest canyon, built into the rock walls like a metal tumor. It was huge, 5 levels deep, with gun turrets on every surface and patrol drones buzzing through the thin air like angry insects. Sensor arrays swept constantly looking for threats. Energy shields covered the main entrances. It was a fortress designed to keep armies out. The mercenary ships arrived at different times, each one picking its own landing zone. Gorval's team came down hard and fast, their heavy transport ship crashing onto a plateau 3 kilometers from the compound. They did not care about stealth. Braxis warriors were built for direct assault, overwhelming force, crushing any enemy through pure strength. The Velthian collective landed on the canyon's opposite rim, thousands of small bodies pouring out of their ship like water. They would use the ventilation systems crawling through pipes and ducts, infiltrating from within. It was how they always worked. Kiv 7's ship landed on a high ridge with clear sight lines to the compound's communication arrays. The cyborg would hack the systems, disable the defenses, and walk in through the front door. He had done it 100 times before on 100 different worlds. Hyunwoo's ship landed 20 kilometers away, behind a rocky outcrop where the compound's sensors could not detect him. He sat in the cockpit for several minutes after landing, just watching his instruments, checking radiation levels, measuring electromagnetic interference, analyzing everything. Then he grabbed his gear and climbed out. The surface of Zar 12 was freezing. Without an atmosphere to hold heat, temperatures dropped to 200 degrees below zero in the shadows. Hyunwoo's suit kept him warm, but he could feel the cold trying to seep in. He started walking toward a ridgeline that would give him a view of the compound. It took him 2 hours to reach it. He moved slowly, carefully, checking every step. When he finally reached the ridge, he dropped flat on his stomach and pulled out his observation scope. The compound filled his view. He could see the gun turrets tracking back and forth, the patrol drones following their programmed routes, the Krell soldiers walking between buildings, their reptilian forms covered in combat armor. He counted them, noted their weapons, memorized their patrol patterns, then he settled in to watch. Meanwhile, Gorval was ready to attack. His team of 40 Braxis warriors stood on the plateau, checking their weapons and roaring battle cries that made the ground shake. Gorval himself carried a plasma cannon that would take 3 normal beings to lift. He pointed it at the compound in the distance. "Brothers," he shouted. "Today we show the galaxy what Braxis strength means. We charge, we kill, we take what is ours. For honor, for credits, for glory." The warriors roared in response. Then they began running toward the compound, their heavy feet making the ground tremble. They did not sneak. They did not hide. They ran straight at their enemy, weapons blazing, ready to smash through any defense. The compound's sensors detected them immediately. Alarms blared. Gun turrets rotated toward the charging warriors. And hidden beneath the canyon floor, weapons that the mercenaries did not know about began to activate. The first plasma blast hit the lead Braxis warrior square in the chest. His armor held, but the impact threw him backward into the warrior behind him. Then the hidden turrets opened fire, dozens of them concealed in the canyon walls, designed specifically to stop this kind of direct assault. Energy beams and explosive rounds filled the air. The Braxis warriors tried to return fire, but they were exposed on open ground. One by one they fell, armor cracked, bodies burned. Warriors who had survived 100 battles died in seconds. Gorval watched half his team die in the first 2 minutes. Rage filled him, but even through his anger he knew they could not win this fight. "Not here, not like this. Retreat," he roared, firing his plasma cannon to cover the survivors. "Fall back." The remaining Braxis warriors turned and ran, carrying their wounded. Behind them, the Krell soldiers on the compound's walls laughed and shouted insults. The mighty Braxis broken and fleeing like scared children. On his ridge 20 kilometers away, Hyunwoo watched through his scope. He saw the whole battle, saw the hidden turrets, saw where they were positioned, saw how the Krell defenders responded. He made notes in his head, adding this information to his growing understanding of the compound's defenses. The Velthian collective was having its own problems. They had found a ventilation shaft and poured inside. Thousands of small bodies flowing through the metal tunnels. They were quiet, efficient, moving like living water toward the compound's heart. Then the gas hit them, Krell nerve toxin, colorless and odorless, flooding through the ventilation system. The Velthians did not even have time to scream. They just stopped moving, their shared consciousness cut off, thousands of small bodies dying in seconds. The few that escaped the gas retreated quickly, their collective mind reeling from the loss. They had lost 30% of their mass in less than an hour. The Krell had been ready for them. Kiv 7 was having better luck. The cyborg had hacked into the compound's external sensors and was slowly working his way deeper into their systems. His mechanical mind processed data faster than organic beings could think. He found firewalls and broke them, found encryption and cracked it, found traps and avoided them. He was so focused on the digital battlefield that he did not notice the real one until it was too late. A Krell cyber warfare specialist, waiting for exactly this kind of attack, launched a counterhack directly into Kiv-7's neural interface. Pain exploded through the cyborg's mind. His vision went white. His systems crashed. He barely managed to disconnect before the hack could fry his brain completely. But the damage was done. Half his combat systems were offline. His targeting computer was dead. He would live, but he would not be fighting today. All of this happened during the first 6 hours. 3 mercenary teams eliminated or crippled. The Krell had won without even leaving their compound, and Hyunwoo had watched it all. He had not moved from his ridge. He had eaten 1 meal bar, drunk some water from his suit's reservoir, and continued observing. His biometric readings were still calm. His heart rate was steady. He showed no signs of stress or fear. The other mercenaries thought he had given up. Some of them, watching from their ships, sent messages mocking the cowardly human who was too afraid to fight. But Hyunwoo was not afraid. He was learning. On the second day, he moved to a different observation point. He wanted to see the compound's eastern defenses. He crawled on his belly for 4 hours, moving so slowly that the automated sensors never detected him. When he reached his new position, he watched for another 12 hours. He saw supply ships land, saw soldiers change shifts, saw where the guards were alert and where they were lazy, saw what doors opened frequently and which ones stayed closed. Every detail went into his memory. On the third day, he studied the patrol drones, learned their flight patterns, their sensor ranges, their blind spots. He timed everything to the second, noted how long it took for gaps to appear in their coverage. The other mercenaries had stopped laughing. Now they were confused. What was the human doing? Why was he just watching? Did he have a plan, or was he just wasting time? Only Thalrix, watching from Station Apex 7 through remote cameras, seemed to understand. He is hunting, the Quellan crime lord said quietly, but he has not chosen his moment yet. On the 4th day, everything changed. Gorval, furious and embarrassed by his defeat, had hired more mercenaries. He had bought siege weapons. He was preparing for another assault, determined to smash through the compound's defenses by pure firepower. His new army gathered on the plateau, 80 warriors strong with heavy weapons and portable shields. Gorval stood at their head, his armor repaired and his pride demanding blood. "Today we win," he roared. Today the Krell learn what it means to anger a Braxis warrior. They charged again, but this time they had shields and covering fire. Plasma bolts and explosive rounds hammered the compound's defenses. The hidden turrets fired back, but the mercenaries were ready for them now. They pushed forward, getting closer to the compound's walls than anyone had before. The Krell responded by locking down the entire facility. Every door sealed. Every shield activated. Alarms blared across all frequencies. Inside the compound, Krell Commander Zathul watched the assault and smiled. These fools were making it easy. But what Zathul did not know was that the lockdown had just given Hyunwoo exactly what he needed. All the Krell's attention was on the eastern wall where Gorval's army was attacking. Nobody was watching the supply routes. 20 kilometers away, Hyunwoo stood up for the first time in 3 days. He stretched his legs, checked his weapons, and started walking toward a road that supply convoys used. He had been waiting for this moment, waiting for the perfect distraction. Waiting for his chance, the wait was over. Now it was time to work. 30 minutes later, a Krell supply convoy was moving along the road. 6 guards in an armored transport, carrying ammunition and medical supplies to the compound. They were bored, not expecting trouble. The fighting was happening on the other side of the canyon. Inside the compound, chaos ruled. Soldiers ran in every direction, carrying weapons and ammunition to the eastern wall. Wounded Krell were being carried to medical stations. Officers shouted orders while technicians worked desperately to keep the defense systems running. Nobody paid attention to one more transport vehicle driving through the compound's main corridor. Hyunwoo kept his face down and his movements calm. He had memorized the compound's layout during his 3 days of observation. He knew where the command center was, knew where the vault would be, knew which corridors would have the least security right now, while everyone focused on the assault outside. He parked the transport near a maintenance bay and climbed out. A group of Krell soldiers ran past him, and he fell in behind them, walking with purpose like he belonged. The uniform helped, but it was his confidence that sold the disguise. He moved like someone who had every right to be there. For 20 minutes, he navigated through the compound without incident. He used service stairs instead of main hallways, walked through storage rooms instead of checkpoints, avoided areas where officers might question him. Every step was calculated, every turn planned during his days of watching. Then he reached level 3, where the vault was located. This area was more secure, with fewer soldiers running around and more guards standing at their posts. Hyunwoo could not just walk past them. He was studying the corridor, planning his next move, when a group of Krell technicians came around the corner. They were pushing equipment carts heading toward the main elevator. Hyunwoo made a split-second decision. He grabbed an empty cart from a storage alcove and joined their group, pushing his cart alongside theirs. The technicians glanced at him but said nothing. In the chaos of the battle, nobody questioned an extra worker. They all entered the elevator together. One technician hit the button for level 5. Hyunwoo hit the button for level 3. Medical supplies, he said in halting Krell. For command center. The technician nodded and turned away. The elevator descended. When it reached level 3, Hyunwoo pushed his empty cart out and the doors closed behind him. He was close now. The vault was 3 corridors away, inside the command center where Commander Sathul coordinated the compound's defense. Hyunwoo had not come this far just to walk through the front door. He needed another approach. He found it in a maintenance shaft. The cover was locked, but his combat knife worked as a pry bar. He slipped inside and pulled the cover closed behind him. The shaft was narrow, barely wide enough for his body, and it ran parallel to the main corridors. Hyunwoo crawled through the darkness, using the blueprint he had memorized to navigate. He passed ventilation fans and power conduits, moving as quietly as possible. Sweat dripped down his face despite the cold metal around him. His muscles ached from the cramped space, but he did not stop. After 30 minutes of crawling, he reached a junction where several shafts connected. Through a ventilation grate, he could see into the command center. Krell officers stood around holographic displays, watching the battle outside. In the center of the room, behind a transparent energy barrier, sat the vault. And inside that vault would be the data core. Commander Zathul stood with his back to the vault, his attention on the battle reports. He was a large Krell, his scales dark green with age, his eyes sharp with intelligence. Status of Eastern Wall? He demanded. Holding, an officer replied. The mercenaries have heavy weapons but no skill. They waste ammunition. They will exhaust themselves soon. Good. When they retreat, I want pursuit teams ready. Kill them all. Leave no survivors. Let word spread that attacking Krell positions is suicide. Hyunwoo listened and planned. He could not fight his way through 12 officers and their commander. Even if he killed some, the alarm would bring hundreds of soldiers. He needed a different approach. Then he noticed something. The compound's power conduits ran through this maintenance junction, thick cables carrying energy to every system in the facility. Environmental controls, communication arrays, defense systems, everything. An idea formed in his mind. Not a good idea, not a safe idea, but an idea that might work. He pulled a small toolkit from his belt. For the next hour, working in near total darkness, he attached micro-explosives to specific power conduits. Not enough to destroy them, just enough to cause controlled failures. He placed them carefully, planning the sequence of events in his head. While he worked, the battle outside intensified. Gorval's forces had broken through the outer defenses and were pushing toward the compound's eastern wall. The Braxis warrior was fighting like a demon, his plasma cannon tearing through Krell positions. But it was costing him. Every meter forward meant more casualties. Inside the command center, Zathul watched with satisfaction. Let them come closer. I want them to think they are winning. Then activate the inner turrets and burn them all. Hyunwoo finished placing his charges and retreated back through the maintenance shaft. He had to get to a safe distance before triggering them. He crawled faster now, not caring about the noise. The sounds of battle would cover any sound he made. He emerged from the maintenance shaft 2 corridors away and found himself face to face with a Krell patrol. 4 soldiers, fully armed, staring at him in confusion. For a moment, nobody moved. The Krell soldiers looked at his ill-fitting uniform, looked at his face, realized he was not one of them. Intruder, one of them shouted, raising his weapon. Hyunwoo's body reacted before his mind finished processing the threat. He threw himself sideways as plasma bolts burned through the air where he had been standing. His hand went to his pistol, drew it, fired 3 times. 2 soldiers fell. The third's armor stopped the bullet. The fourth was already moving, his rifle swinging toward the human. Hyunwoo dove behind a support pillar as more plasma bolts hit the metal behind him. He could hear the Krell soldiers shouting into their communicators, calling for backup. The compound would know about him now. His stealth approach was over. Time for the next phase. He pulled a small detonator from his pocket and pressed the first button. In the maintenance shaft behind him, the first set of charges exploded. Not loudly, not with visible fire, just with enough force to sever key power conduits. The lights in the corridor flickered and died. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. The Krell soldiers cursed and switched to thermal vision, but Hyunwoo was already moving, using the darkness and his knowledge of the layout to circle around them. He came up behind the third soldier and drove his knife into the gap between the Krell's helmet and armor. The soldier dropped without a sound. The fourth soldier spun around, but Hyunwoo was already rolling away. Another plasma bolt missed him by centimeters. He pressed the second button on his detonator. More charges exploded in sequence, taking out environmental controls and secondary power systems. The temperature in the compound began to drop. Ventilation fans slowed and stopped. In the command center, officers shouted in alarm as their systems went dark. "We are under attack. Internal sabotage." Sethul's eyes narrowed. "Find the intruder. Lock down all levels. Nobody moves without authorization." But it was too late for lockdowns. Hyunwoo pressed the third button. The main communication array went offline in a shower of sparks. The compound was now cut off from the outside world, unable to call for reinforcements or coordinate properly with their defensive positions. The final Krell soldier from the patrol had tracked Hyunwoo by sound. He fired blindly into the darkness, his plasma rifle illuminating the corridor in brief flashes. Hyunwoo waited for the pattern, counted the shots, and moved during the reload. His pistol barked twice. The last soldier fell. Alarms were blaring now throughout the compound. Soldiers were abandoning their defensive positions, coming inside to search for the saboteur. Sethul was screaming orders, but without the communication system, his commands were not reaching everyone. Outside, Gorval noticed the Krell defense suddenly weakening. He did not know why, but he was not going to waste the opportunity. "Push forward. They are breaking. Attack." His remaining warriors surged forward, breaking through the eastern wall defenses. For the first time, the Krell compound looked vulnerable. But inside, Hyunwoo was in trouble. He had made it to level 4, close to the command center. But now there were Krell soldiers everywhere. They were hunting him systematically, checking every room, every corridor. He could not hide forever. He ducked into a storage room and barricaded the door. It would not hold long, but it would give him a moment to think. He checked his ammunition. 3 magazines left. 27 rounds. Not nearly enough for what was coming. The door shook as something heavy slammed into it. Krell voices shouted on the other side. They were bringing cutting tools. In 30 seconds, they would be through. Hyunwoo looked around the storage room, searching for anything useful. Chemical containers lined the shelves. Cleaning supplies. Industrial solvents. And something else, something that made him pause. Pressurized oxygen canisters, used for emergency life support in case of atmospheric breaches. He grabbed 2 of them and checked the pressure. Both were full. An idea formed in his mind. Another dangerous idea, but he was running out of safe options. He set the canisters by the door and used his knife to puncture the valves just slightly. Oxygen began hissing out, filling the room. The first hunter never had a chance to fire. Hyunwoo closed the distance between them faster than the Krell's eyes could track. One moment the human was 5 meters away. The next moment he was inside the hunter's guard, his knife already moving. The blade went up under the Krell's chin, through the soft tissue, into the brain. The hunter died before his nervous system could register pain. Hyunwoo ripped the rifle from the falling body and spun, firing in the same motion. 2 more hunters went down, their armor unable to stop point-blank rifle fire. The remaining 3 scattered, their training overriding their shock. They took cover behind support pillars and began coordinating their counterattack, but Hyunwoo was not where they expected. He had already moved, using the smoke and shadows to circle behind them. His movements were no longer calculated and efficient. They were fast, aggressive, unpredictable. He was not thinking about conserving energy or minimizing risk. He was fighting like something cornered and dangerous. One hunter exposed his shoulder to aim around a pillar. Hyunwoo put 3 rounds through it. The Krell screamed and fell. Another hunter tried to flank from the opposite side. Hyunwoo dropped the rifle and drew his pistol, firing while moving, never stopping. 2 shots missed. The third took the hunter in the eye. The last hunter realized he was alone. His squad, his elite hunter squad, was dead in less than 30 seconds. He started backing away, his weapon shaking. "What are you?" he whispered in his own language. Hyunwoo did not answer. He just kept walking forward. His breathing was heavy now, his body running on adrenaline and ancient instincts that his species had developed on a world where everything wanted to kill them. His ancestors had survived by being faster, smarter, and more vicious than anything else on their planet. That legacy was written in his DNA, and right now it was taking control. The hunter fired wildly. Plasma bolts burned past Hyunwoo, hitting walls and ceiling. One grazed his shoulder, melting through the stolen uniform and scorching his skin. He did not even slow down. The pain registered somewhere in his mind, but it was distant, unimportant. All that mattered was reaching the threat and eliminating it. He grabbed the hunter's rifle and pulled. The Krell, stronger than any human, tried to hold on. But Hyunwoo had momentum and leverage and desperation. He twisted the weapon, broke the hunter's grip, and swung it like a club. The metal stock connected with the Krell's helmet. Once, twice, the helmet cracked. The hunter fell. Hyunwoo stood over the bodies, breathing hard. His hands were shaking. Not from fear. From the chemical flood in his bloodstream that was turning him into something his profession usually let him avoid being. Something raw and primal. In the command center, Zathul watched the security footage with growing disbelief. "One human," he said slowly. "One human did all of this?" An officer beside him was staring at the screens showing Hyunwoo's path of destruction. Bodies everywhere. Systems failing. The compound's defense falling apart. "Commander, his physiology is changing. His thermal signature is elevated. His heart rate is dangerously high. He should be incapacitated, but he is moving faster than before." Zathul had seen many species fight. He had fought in wars across 3 sectors. But he had never seen anything like this. The human was not using tactics anymore. He was just killing everything in his path with brutal efficiency. "What is happening to him?" Zathul demanded. The officer checked his datapad, accessing files on human biology. What he read made his scales go cold. "Commander, humans evolved on a Class 9 death world. When threatened, their bodies produce chemicals that enhance strength, suppress pain, and increase aggression. Their species calls it fight or flight response. But according to this data, humans almost always choose fight. How do we stop him?" "I do not know, Commander. The data suggests that once this response activates, humans become extremely difficult to kill. Their pain tolerance increases dramatically. They can continue fighting even with severe injuries, and they do not stop until the threat is eliminated or they die." Zathul looked at the screen showing Hyunwoo moving through the compound. The human was no longer trying to hide. He was walking down main corridors, weapon ready, looking for his next fight. "Send everyone," Zathul ordered. "Every soldier not defending the eastern wall. Bring them all to level 4. Overwhelming force. We end this now." But even as he gave the order, something in his warrior's instinct whispered that he had made a terrible mistake by not taking the human seriously from the beginning. Hyunwoo reached a main junction where 3 corridors met. He could hear boots running, lots of them, from multiple directions. They were coming for him. He checked his ammunition. 1 magazine left. 10 rounds. He also had the Krell rifle he had taken nearly full charge. Not enough. Not nearly enough for what was coming. He looked around and spotted an emergency equipment locker. He opened it and found exactly what he needed. Fire suppression grenades, designed to create thick foam that would smother flames. He took 4 of them. The first squad of Krell soldiers appeared from the north corridor. 20 soldiers in formation, shields up, moving in perfect coordination. They saw the human standing alone in the junction and opened fire. Hyunwoo threw 2 of the foam grenades. They detonated in front of the squad, filling the corridor with thick white foam that blocked vision and fouled their weapons. The Krell pushed through, but they were blind and disoriented. He met them in the foam where their numbers and coordination did not matter. His knife found gaps in armor. His rifle fired at point-blank range. When the rifle ran out of charge, he used it as a club. When a Krell soldier grabbed him, he broke the soldier's arm and took his weapon. It was not elegant combat. It was not professional. It was savage, brutal, desperate fighting where survival meant being more willing to do violence than your enemy. And Hyunwoo's species had spent millions of years perfecting that willingness. When he emerged from the foam, 8 Krell soldiers were dead, and the rest were fleeing. He was covered in blood, his own and theirs. His left arm was not working properly, probably fractured. His ribs hurt where a plasma bolt had hit his armor, but he was still moving forward. The second squad appeared from the east corridor. They had learned from watching the first squad's mistake. They did not come close. They set up heavy weapons at the corridor's far end and prepared to cut him down with sustained fire. Hyunwoo threw his last 2 foam grenades, but they would not reach that far. He needed cover, but there was none in the junction. He was exposed, wounded, outnumbered, and about to be torn apart by heavy weapons fire. His tactical mind, still functioning beneath the adrenaline and rage, told him he had one option left. Not a good option, possibly a fatal option, but the only option. He ran toward them, not away, not for cover, directly at them across open ground, while they prepared to fire. Every instinct in a rational being's mind would scream to find cover, to retreat, to survive. But Hyunwoo was not operating on rational thought anymore. He was operating on the same instinct that had let his ancestors run down prey across the African savanna, chasing animals to exhaustion, refusing to stop no matter what. Humans were endurance hunters, and once they started chasing something, they did not stop. The Krell soldiers, veterans of many battles, had never seen anything like it. An enemy running at their prepared position, wounded and barely armed with no chance of survival. It was insane. It was suicidal. It was terrifying. Their fire discipline broke. They started shooting wildly, panic making their aim poor. Hyunwoo weaved between the plasma bolts, his body moving on pure instinct and luck. One bolt hit his leg and he stumbled but did not fall. Another burned across his back. He kept running. He reached them before they could properly adjust their aim. At that range, the heavy weapons were useless. It became close combat again. And in close combat, the human's fury and desperation gave him an edge that size and strength could not match. He fought with everything he had, with weapons, with fists, with teeth when nothing else was available. The Krell soldiers were stronger, better armored, and more numerous. But they were also starting to feel something they rarely felt in battle: fear, because the human would not stop. He took damage that should have killed him and kept fighting. He lost blood and kept fighting. He should have collapsed from exhaustion and shock, but his body's chemicals kept him going, kept him attacking, kept him being dangerous. Finally, the Krell broke. The survivors ran, abandoning their weapons and their wounded. They ran from one human who refused to die, who refused to stop, who fought like a demon from their oldest nightmares. Hyunwoo stood alone in the corridor, swaying on his feet. He was badly hurt now. The adrenaline was starting to fade, and with it came the pain. His leg was burned and barely supporting his weight. His arm was definitely broken. He had cuts and burns across his body. He should find medical attention. He should retreat. Instead, he picked up a working rifle and continued toward the command center, because his sister needed him. Because he had not come this far to quit. Because stopping meant failure, and failure meant G1 would die. So he kept moving, step by step. Bleeding and burning and broken, but still moving. Zathul watched him come. The commander had sealed himself in the command center with his best soldiers. They had the data core. They had fortifications. Hyunwoo barely remembered the walk back to his ship. His body moved on autopilot, putting one foot in front of the other. The data core clutched against his chest like a lifeline. Behind him, the Krell compound burned. Smoke rose into the thin atmosphere, visible for hundreds of kilometers. He passed the other mercenaries on his way. Gorval and what remained of his team had pulled back to their landing zone. They watched the human limp past them, covered in blood and burns, barely alive but still moving. The Braxis warriors who had mocked him days ago now stood in silent respect. Gorval himself stepped forward, blocking Hyunwoo's path one last time. But this time there was no mockery in his eyes. No threats. Just something that looked like fear mixed with awe. "Human," the Braxis warrior said quietly. "I was wrong about you. About your kind." Hyunwoo looked up at him. His vision was blurry, his body screaming for rest. But he managed to speak. "I just want to go home. The contract, you won. The prize is yours. I know, Hyunwoo said and walked past him. His ship was where he had left it, untouched. He climbed aboard, sealed the airlock, and collapsed into the pilot's seat. His fingers were shaking so badly he could barely enter the launch codes. But he managed. The engines fired. The ship lifted off from the dead moon's surface. As soon as he was clear of the gravity well, Hyunwoo set the autopilot for Station Apex 7 and let himself pass out. The medical kit in his quarters would keep him alive until he got back. Barely. 3 days later, his ship docked at the station. Medical teams were waiting. Thalrix had sent them along with armed guards. Not because he thought the human would cause trouble, because he wanted to make sure Hyunwoo survived long enough to deliver the data core. They carried him off the ship on a stretcher. He was delirious with fever and infection, but he had the data core in his hand and he would not let it go. Not until he was in Thalrix's chambers, with the Quellan crime lord standing over him. The core, Thalrix said gently. Give it to me, human. You have earned your payment. Hyunwoo's eyes focused on him with effort. 10 million. Transfer, now. Thalrix showed him the transaction on a datapad. 10 million credits transferred to an account registered to G1 on Earth. Medical expenses. Experimental treatment. A chance at life. Only then did Hyunwoo release his grip on the data core. You are either the bravest being I have ever met, Thalrix said, taking the core, or the most insane. Neither, Hyunwoo whispered. Just desperate. Love makes you desperate. Then he passed out again and the medical teams took him away. News of what happened on Zar 12 spread through the criminal underworld like wildfire. The security footage was analyzed, copied, studied by every mercenary and military commander who could get access to it. What they saw changed how the galaxy looked at humanity forever. One human, one soldier, destroying a fortified compound defended by 200 Krell warriors. It should not have been possible. The math did not work. The odds were impossible, but the footage did not lie. And neither did the survivors. Krell soldiers who escaped the compound told stories that sounded like myths. A human who would not die. A predator that hunted them through their own fortress. A being that fought with such fury that veteran warriors fled in terror. The stories spread to other species. To the Braxis, who prided themselves on their strength. To the Nexians, who thought their technology made them superior. To the Velthians, who believed numbers always won. All of them began to reconsider their assumptions about humans. On Earth, in a hospital in Seoul, Jiwon lay in her bed, unaware of what her brother had done. She was weak from her illness, her body fighting a disease that human medicine could barely understand. But the experimental treatment was working, slowly, carefully, pushing back the sickness that had been killing her. When Hyunwoo finally woke up, 2 weeks after returning to Station Apex 7, the first thing he did was check his messages. There was one from Jiwon. Her voice was weak, but she was smiling in the video. Big brother, I do not know how you got the money. I do not want to know. But the treatment is working. The doctors say I have a real chance now. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hyunwoo closed his eyes and let himself breathe. It had been worth it. Every wound, every moment of pain and fury. Worth it, a doctor came in to check on him. Not a human doctor, but a Quellan physician who had studied human biology. You are healing remarkably fast, the doctor said. Your species has impressive regenerative abilities. How long until I can leave? 2 more weeks. Your bones are still knitting. Your burns are still healing. You pushed your body beyond its limits. You should not have survived what you did. But I did survive, Hyunwoo said quietly. That is what humans do. The doctor made a note on his datapad. I have been reading about your species, your evolutionary history, your world. It explains much. What do you mean? Your planet Earth. It is classified as a high-gravity, high-danger world. Class 9 on the habitability scale. Most species in the galaxy evolved on Class 3 or 4 worlds. Peaceful places, safe places. The doctor paused. Your world tried to kill your ancestors every single day. They survived by becoming better at killing than anything else on the planet. That legacy is written into your DNA. We left all that behind, Hyunwoo said. We are civilized now. Are you? Or do you simply choose to be civilized until circumstances force you to remember what you are? The doctor's eyes were kind but serious. I watched the footage from Zar 12. What I saw was not civilization. What I saw was something ancient and terrifying, something that every species in this galaxy should be very careful not to awaken. We do not want to be that, Hyunwoo said. We want peace, and I believe you. But others will not forget what they saw. You have changed how the galaxy sees humanity. For better or worse, the doctor left. Hyunwoo lay back and stared at the ceiling. He had done what he needed to do. Saved his sister, completed his mission, but the cost had been higher than just his wounds. Somewhere in the station in the diplomatic quarters, another human was having a similar conversation. Her name was Ji-won, no relation to Hyunwoo's sister, and she worked as a representative for the Galactic Council. She had been called to an emergency meeting with ambassadors from a dozen species. The meeting room was tense. Ambassadors who usually treated humans with casual dismissiveness now looked at her with something between respect and fear. We need to discuss the incident on Zar 12. The Quellan ambassador began. One of your soldiers destroyed a fortified military position alone. This has caused considerable concern among council members. Ji-won kept her expression neutral. Hyunwoo was acting as a private contractor, not a military operative. His actions do not represent human military capability. That is what concerns us, a Braxis representative rumbled. If your civilians are capable of this, what can your military do? Our military is for defense only. We have no aggressive intentions toward any council species. But you have aggressive capability, a Nexian representative said, their synthesized voice cold. The footage shows a level of individual combat effectiveness that exceeds our projections by several orders of magnitude. Ji-won took a breath. This was the conversation she had been dreading. The one where humanity's carefully built reputation as a peaceful diplomatic species started to crack under the weight of what they really were. Yes, she said simply. We have that capability. Every human does. The room fell silent. Our evolutionary history made us this way. Ji-won continued. We evolved on a world that was constantly trying to kill us. We survived by becoming the most dangerous thing on our planet. But we left that world specifically because we wanted to be something better than what we were. Can you control it? The Quellan ambassador asked. This fury that your soldier displayed? Usually, yes. We are not mindless berserkers. We are thinking beings who have built a civilization based on cooperation, compassion, and peace. But when threatened, when pushed too far, we have the capacity to become what our ancestors were. Apex predators, pursuit hunters, beings that refuse to stop until either the threat is eliminated or we die trying. That makes you incredibly dangerous, the Nexian representative said. Yes, Ji-won agreed. It does, which is why you should never give us a reason to stop being civilized. The threat hung in the air, unspoken but clear. The ambassadors looked at each other, realizing that humanity had just changed from a minor species to be patronized into a potential threat to be respected. We are peaceful by choice, Ji-won said, her voice steady and clear. We choose diplomacy over violence. We choose cooperation over conquest. We left Earth to join the galactic community because we wanted to be better than our nature, but never forget, never dare to forget what we had to become to survive our homeworld. If you see a human truly angry, if you push us into a corner where peace is no longer an option, then you will see what billions of years of evolution on a death world created. She stood up, her small frame somehow commanding the room. We are not asking for special treatment. We are not demanding recognition as a superior species. We are simply asking that you treat us with the same respect you would show any other species, because we are peaceful by choice, not by nature, and choices can change. She left the meeting room. Behind her, the ambassadors sat in silence, processing what they had just been told.